Welcome to Real Laughs on Real Radio 104.1. I am your host for this evening, Miguel Colon Jr. I am joined in studio by the head writer of The Lowdown, Mr. Mike Hurley. Mike, what's up, bro?
Oh, man, living the dream, just redecorating the house. Everything's Biden blue now, you know,
Nice,
looking pretty,
man.
looking pretty.
Your boys are at the age where they understand presidents, but they don't understand big things like elections and stuff like that. Do you try to talk to them about some of this stuff, or did you wait to make sure Biden got elected before you talk to them about it? Because if President Trump would have got elected, would you just been like, sometimes, guys, there's a dark time in life. You know?
I actually with my 10-year-old, I talk more about it than anything, and he's really big. He's like his mom. He's really big on conservation and the environment. And like if we see a bug in the house, I'm not allowed to stomp on it. I have to catch and release it and stuff like that. So basically, you know, he knew I was a little bit worried about the election, and you know, we're the only one in the neighborhood. That's how the conversation originally came up. We have a Biden-Harris sign. 70 houses in my neighborhood, 12 had Trump signs. We had Biden-Harris. And he asked how come ours was different from everybody else's. And then I just kind of went down and explained to him, I'm like, look, if you got two guys and one guy was saying half of us are right and the rest of you are wrong, and then you got another guy saying, hey, we got to find a way to all come together and work together. I'm like, if you have one guy saying, hey, let's protect the environment, and you got another guy saying, hey, let's protect my rich friends who need to make money, even if we lose a couple of things like birds and trees and fresh air, you know, I'm like, who are you going to vote for? And he's like, the one that likes birds and trees. I'm like, yeah, I feel like I swayed and gave you a biased way, but that's kind of where we're at right now, buddy.
You should have just hit him up, took him into the podcast studio, turned around and said, you see these, son? These are books. You won't find these in the rest of the houses in the neighborhood.
Yeah. You know how your mom won't let you have a dog? The guy in the White House right now doesn't have a dog. The guy I want in the White House has a dog. I'm not saying your mom. I'm not saying your mom's evil, but you do, Matt. 2 and 2. You know what's up.
Hey guys, also joining the studio today is Mr. Ken Miller, the godfather of Orlando comedy. Ken, if you guys were listening to last night's show, he survived a stalker incident. I hope you're not suffering from PTSD. Or
No, man, I'm cool now because I got a cop that be sitting outside my neighborhood now, man. Shout out to Austin if you listening, bro. Shout out to my dude, man. I'm outside. No, I'm smoking a cigar and I'm outside having a drink. And it's a cop sitting there, and I'm like, yo, what's up? And because I'm in the front of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So he drives around the neighborhood, comes back. I'm saying, man, come on. What's up, bro? Because I sit outside with a stick and a knife because I'm going to beat you and stab you to death. I want you to feel this pain. I'm not going to shoot you. It ain't going to be quick. You're going to see the fear. You're going to be the fear in my eyes as I'm murdering you. Go up to him. I say, hey, man, everything cool? He's like, yeah, everything cool. I said, all right, because I keep seeing you sitting here. And you know I'm on that. I got that whole wrong side of the tracks thing. You know, on my side is a really cool, nice neighborhood. And across is like some, you know, it's a little sketchy. He said, so I guess somebody in the HOA reported that there's been some issues over there. So of course, then I turned into you know, Tom Blackman. I'm like, hey, okay, cool. Hey, what's your name again, sir? He was like, oh, so let's hey, can I get you a water, a Red Bull, or anything? He was like, no, I'm fine. I said, no, you know what? No, I'm going to get you a water, a Red Bull. Matter of fact, I made ribs tonight. I gave you a plate of food. Dude, I was straight up. Once he told me what he was looking for, man, I turned into straight HOA. I was straight homeowners association, bro. And so when I walked up to him, I said, hey, you know, I'm a comedian, you know, joking around. I said, I'm on the radio. He says, for real? I said, yeah, I'm on Real Ass. He says, yo, I'm listening to it right now. I said, yeah, that's me. I don't know if he believes me or not, but I told him I'd give him a shout out. And that was last week. So I'm giving him a shout out. So I think he said his name was Austin. So Austin for a Popcopedia, if you're listening, what's up, brother?
Well, hopefully when this episode airs in a year or two, you know.
Hey, you know what? I think one of the worst things is, like I say, this is when I tell people I'm on Real Laughs on Real Radio, and then they know what it is, and then I'm shocked.
Yeah.
Like, people, I'll be like, yeah, I'm on the radio, I'm on Real Laughs. They're like, I know Real Laughs.
I love that shit. When they say they love the show, I'll be like, for real?
For real?
Yeah. You know, Ken, I was thinking about it last night after we got off the air, and you had talked about your stalker story. I'm like, that's the perfect sum up for the way our careers are going. We don't even almost get murdered by our own stalkers. We don't even have our own stalkers. We're getting murdered. We're like second rate getting murdered by other people's stalkers because they weren't available to get murdered that night.
Bro, I was about to get murdered. I was about to get murdered by a dude, and I wasn't even on the show, bro.
Nope. Close enough to Michael Blackson.
Yeah, proximity murdered. You know, I have people who recognize my voice But I'm talking 90% of them will be like, either I used to listen to you on the Monsters, or I love when you're on Tom and Dan. Or some people will be like, yo, I love you from Mike Busey. And I'm like, cool. And I'm like, I got a radio show. They're like, word? And I'm like, I talk about it on all those appearances you're talking about that you hear me. And they're like, you got a show too? And then the worst part is I'll tell them, and sometimes like I'll be like, yeah, you should check it out. It's Real Laughs. They're like, cool. And I'm like, get your phone out, man. Like
how do you explain because my thing is explaining to him what the show is about. So I'm like, hey, we're 4 comedians and we just be talking about, every comedy, and then we'll talk about everyday stuff. And I say we're on between 9 and 10, and they're like, okay, cool. I'll check you out. And then they'll walk away because, maybe because it's radio, because 20 years ago, if you were radio, people, you on the radio?
Yeah.
Man, I would love to. I mean, everybody said I should do radio, but now like, oh, you on the radio? Hey, cool, man.
Is that working out?
I joke about it all the time. When I was a kid, I used to watch the Dick Van Dyke Show, and all I wanted to do was work in a writer's room for a late night talk show. Yeah. And then when I was in high school, I listened to the Love Doctors in St. Lucie, Florida. Dr. Rich and Dr. Glenn. And I wanted to be a radio DJ so badly. Like I was like, let me go Connecticut School of Broadcasting. And I went and couldn't afford the sign up and everything else. So I thought about it. I'm like, man, that's just my life, man. I finally get to write for a TV show, and I get to be a host on a radio show right at the time when they lasted all those decades, TV and radio, and I get to be here at the end of it. I get to be in 2 dying markets.
It's right like the dude in 1905 who finally took over the whale oil business. Worked my way up to the top.
What I am?
What's this electricity you're talking about?
I'm that guy who bought that toupee that you had to get the bolts implanted because it was a snap-on. And the very next day, they announced Hair Club for Men and Rogaine.
Dude.
Bolts. It's 1989, and you just became the CEO of Laserdisc.
Mike, what happened?
Stop me now.
Is that Connecticut Broadcast School still open? Because I was going to go to it. When I got out the military and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, I had $36,000 in GI Bill college money. And the first thing I was like, dude, I want to go into broadcasting. And then I went to it. The facility was so nice, but then we started looking it up, and everybody was saying how it was such a ripoff.
Over by the Millennium Mall.
Yeah, right? yeah. So I ended up working for Sprint or Nextel, and then I just never went to school.
Yeah, when I was down in Port St. Lucie, their campus was in West Palm Beach. And at the time, you could go and take the whole radio broadcasting course for like $2,000 or something like that. So I went down and did the orientation, and my dad actually went down with me. And then I didn't have $2,000 at the time. I wanted to do it, but I didn't have the money. So then they called me next week. They're like, well, congratulations, because we were impressed with your interview, and we're going to give you like half that money. So it's only $1,000. But I'm talking, I was 1996 broke. $1,000 might as well been, $1 million.
You're like $1,000. What about oil baron?
So then, Ken, I remember when you were saying you had GI money to use, and you were thinking, go Connecticut School of Broadcasting. I was like, oh, man, they got one up here? Yeah, maybe I'll look back into it. All of a sudden, they were up to like full sale prices for like radio classes, like wanting $41,000 a year. And their whole thing is they used to be like, oh, we help with job placement. But then when you start talking to graduates, they're like, man, there ain't no job placement help. It's like you get out and it's like full sale. Full sale guarantees job placement. But a lot of Full Sail graduates go on to be teachers at Full Sail.
Yeah.
Like that's their job placement. Like, great, you learned it. Now you teach it. I'm like, it might have changed because I did the Full Sail orientation. I got friends over there too. And it might have changed because they put a lot of money into Full Sail. They got the big back lot now and everything else. But at that time, the job placement guarantee just meant you got to stick around to teach what you just learned.
I don't want a teacher who just graduated. That doesn't make me sick. That just be like, so what's your experience? You see that chair you're sitting in? That's my chair.
It's funny because they're still open. They're still open, but they have different things now. Now they have broadcast media, web development, social media market, filmmaking.
Yeah. Dude, Miguel, what you were just saying, that reminds me of my history teacher in high school. Because he was the same way. He was the wrestling coach but you couldn't be just the wrestling coach. You had to teach. So he taught history, and he'd be like, all right, guys, so here's your assignment. I want you to read chapter 4. Don't read chapter 5 because I haven't read chapter 5 yet. Like, that was his whole thing, man.
Yo.
He would just start talking chapter 5 on me, making me look
He would
bad.
read a chapter a week, teach that chapter, and then sometimes, just to be jerks, me and my buddy Pete Gabriel, we would like actually read ahead so we could like answer a question and then ask him a question about like, don't get smart with me, guys. You know I didn't read chapter 18. I don't know what happened in the Civil War.
You want to be smart? Get over here in the middle, Mike. Weight class roundup, okay? I had a teacher, and he was, like you're a kid, so you don't get that some of these teachers are 26 years old. That doesn't mean anything to you when you're 14.
No,
you don't
they're all adults.
Yeah, they're all adults. And I remember he was a server over at Applebee's, and then he was going to barber school. And like he would literally be talking to us in class, and he'd just be like, let me ask you a question, man. Can I fade you up? Because I've got an exam in barber school. And he'd be like, if you want to stay after school, I'll fade you up for free. And he would just be like, he was so trying to be a barber because he wanted money. And then I remember I came to Applebee's with my dad one day. We were just talking. And then he's just talking candidly with my dad. He's like, yeah, man, my real passion is to be a barber. But, right now I'm just doing this teaching. And it's like, you don't want to hear your teacher who's serving your table at Applebee's tell you this isn't his passion.
Yeah.
I had a science teacher, Miss Fox, who during the summer would be a waitress at TGI Fridays. Yeah. So like she would fail me on an exam and then expect a 20% tip. I'm like, no, you stiff me, I stiff you. That's the way this goes.
Yeah. I remember I went to Applebee's one time. I don't know why so many stories about Applebee's when I was younger. I think it was just one of the places we would go to.
That's all he had.
Yeah, it was like we could go to Applebee's, man, and hang out. And then I remember by the time we were 18, we'd go to Applebee's and drink because we knew enough servers and bartenders there. But I remember being at Applebee's, just sitting at a table with a bunch of beers. They used to have those, the Big Brutus was the beer. It was like,
yeah.
Yep. And so we're all sitting there having our Brutus, eating. And I remember a teacher just walked by, and God, I can't remember her name. She was really pretty too. And she was with her husband. She was like, everybody's 21 now, huh? And we're all just sitting there with our beers. And she made us leave. She was like, tip your server, get your checks, and go. But she didn't get us in trouble. And I always wondered, I was like, I wonder why she didn't get us in trouble. Come to find out, like a month later, she bartended there too. So because all the teachers always had side jobs.
Yeah, so they all had,
She did the same thing. Like during holidays, she would bartend at Applebee's. So when she saw us drinking, she didn't want to get the bartender in trouble because we had gotten beers. But it was so funny. Whenever I'd see a teacher working a job, I'd be like, you have no power now.
Which I got to tell you, man, who's more excited about Joe Biden winning than so many people? Teachers, dude. I have friends who are teachers in New York because Joe's wife, Jill, Dr. Jill Biden, Doctor of Education. She is, dude. Betsy DeVos, Betsy bye-bye. Okay.
Betsy DeVos is gonna be working at the Amway Center with
scanning your ticket when you walk in, but like, yo, ain't you Betsy?
No, you crazy.
We went from a woman that had no idea about education to a woman who probably knows too much about education.
Yeah, Betsy D. It's gonna be fun, real quick, guys. And I'm not trying to be like a sour winner. But it's going to be fun watching people that you knew had no business in the position they got in, getting booted from this and seeing where they go. Because everybody's going to land on their feet. That's the world of being rich and powerful. But it's going to be fun seeing people do what they should be doing. Like our secretary, or our agricultural secretary, who has no business being there, is going to be on QVC just hawking oil products. Like, hey, it works. Hey, guys, we got to go to commercial. When we come back, I want to bring up a special birthday for today as well as a special holiday for today. And both of them mean a lot. You're listening to Real Laughs on Real Radio 104.1. Welcome back to Real Laughs on Real Radio 104.1. I am your host, Miguel Jr., joined in virtual studio with Mr. Mike Hurley and the godfather of Orlando comedy, Mr. Ken Miller. James Yon is sitting out today's episode again, celebrating his anniversary with his beautiful wife, Michelle. But he will be back on the next episodes for Wednesday and Thursday. Now, today I wanted to do two special things that I want to bring up. One, it is this very, very, very special birthday to me and to my father. It is the 245th birthday of the United States Marine Corps. And my father I don't know, Ken, you've been around Marines. I mean, Ken, you're a 9-year Army veteran, but you know, Marines take things like the birthday very, very
Man,
personal.
they take being a Marine seriously and very, very personal.
It is, man. It's a
Oh my
cult. It's
goodness,
not a
bro.
military branch. It's a cult. And like everything, Marine Corps birthday is a tradition I grew up with my whole life. Yeah, I was born into a Marine Corps family, and my father was in the Marines for 26 years. So my whole childhood was a Marine Corps childhood. Bases, moving around, Marine Corps balls. But the Marine Corps birthday is a huge thing to the Marines. Every 10 November, they celebrate the birthday, and it's a big ceremony. I mean, there's a commandant's message. There's a ceremony for the fallen. There's a ceremony for the prisoner of war. There's a big cake cutting where the oldest Marine in the building gets the first slice of the cake, and then he takes a bite and hands it to the youngest Marine in the building. And for the past, since 2009, so the past 11 years almost, my father has thrown a Marine Corps birthday that's open to every Marine in the area. And we've done it at Bubbaloo's Barbecue for like the past 6 years, where my father would rent out the whole Bubbaloo's establishment and basically out of his own time and with some of his friends, of course, as well. They would throw a party for every single Marine in the area. It didn't matter. You served 2 years, you got out from a medical discharge, you served 26 years, whatever. And of course, all Navy corpsmen, because Navy corpsmen provide the medical assistance to Marines. And this is a big thing. And I mean, it's my father's big party. We'd have like 250 Marines over there. And Marine Corps birthday, it's a lot of tradition. It's a lot of old guys getting drunk, telling stories, a lot of big bellies on guys who you look at pictures from 20 years ago.
They were in shape.
Yeah, 20 years ago, these guys were ripped, and now they got bellies like mine hanging over all their belts and everything. But it's a big deal, and I've been blessed to grow up in military family and stuff because you get to learn. One thing that I really love about living on military bases is I would be stationed with my family in like Jacksonville, North Carolina, middle of nowhere, but you're surrounded with people who have been all around the world. And it's really interesting to be in like a little, like a BFE place where you can't find a decent Italian restaurant. There's no Mexicans nearby to get tacos, but your next door neighbor is from Thailand, and then the kid down the street is from Okinawa, and all these kids I grew up with would be like, you know where the best pho is? Telling you, man, Sangwon Province. Like, and it was cool to get that kind of world view and stuff. And
Now,
yeah.
Growing up with a military family and on bases and everything, did you ever have pressure from your dad to join the Corps? Did you ever have interest, or being around it all the time, did you decide early on, you're like, this isn't what I want to do?
As a kid, there were things about it I definitely thought would be amazing. But you actually had more for me, especially because my old man was there all the time. He would be like, I'd see a lot of the down that I was like, no way,
Yeah.
man. No way. Like there were a lot of like deployments could last like 10 months. And the Marine Corps is an expeditionary force, so it's allowed to be deployed without the president declaring war. So you could use it as a police force around the world for a lot of stuff. And so there'd be lots of deployments. And then one of the things though that was always funny growing up on the base was where we lived. Fort Bragg was down the road. Now that's the Army Special Forces base. And one of the cool things about that is Marines ego, 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 ego. But you can't say nothing about Green Berets. Like they're the baddest. They're some badasses. And you'd hear the Marines that I grew up on base, just making fun of the Army, making fun of the Navy for everything. And then you see like a bunch of Green Berets going for a jog, and you can tell they're all just looking at them like, damn. I wish I played on that team. The weirdest thing too was tons of like I would like to bring up my top 5 unique experiences growing up on Marine Corps bases to celebrate the 245th birthday of the United States Marine Corps. Number 5, watching a bunch of grown men who were very homophobic wear tiny skivvy panties all day long. Ken Miller, help me out on
my
that one.
God, dude! I would get triple extra large shorts just so they would. Man, I wish you would have told me that you were going to do this. I would have got my shorts out of the garage. I really would have got the shorts out of the job, bro. They're so little, man, and I'm just like, oh my God! And you got to have it tucked in, and you got to have the runner shoes on. You got to have on your little white socks, and we got on these little boxer shorts type run, bro. I would get the biggest shorts I could get, bro. It was kind of like when I played high school basketball. If you were a big man, you got the long shorts, but point guards would try to get the long shorts because we were still in the John Stockton era, in high school. So it was the same for me. Yeah, them shorts was little, bro. They was
Yo,
so tiny, man. Oh, I
growing up,
wish you would have told me, dude.
just watching Mike, dudes who at the time were very, very insecure with their masculinity and homophobic, wearing little panties
Yeah,
everywhere, walking around in their tiny little Ranger panties, little silky skivvies.
yeah.
Number 4, unique experience growing up on military bases, and this will give you appreciation for anyone who says, "How dare you disrespect the flag?" Watching men who have dedicated their life to the service of this country take off sprinting and running to get inside a building so they will not have to stand at attention when taps is played and the
Bruh.
flag is lowering.
Yeah, it's retreat, right?
It's retreat,
Retreat is the
reverie,
end. Yeah,
retreat. Yeah, retreat.
revel and retreat, bro. You'll be outside, and I think it's 4:30,
Yeah.
and you'll be looking at your clock, and it'll be like, duh, 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 duh. Bro. You know how to Flash?
Yeah.
When Flash be like, bro, you be like, man, and then don't get caught, because if a sergeant catches you, he gonna come like, hey, private, you gonna run doing revel like you ain't never ran do retreat or rev, because reveille, I think which is in the
The
morning.
morning, you get
We're
whatever.
normally doing PT, so we're
Yeah.
normally out there. You do your half right face and salute, and then you go back to PT. When it's 4:30, you're trying to get in the barracks or get in the house before this, and it's only like 35 seconds. You're not even out there that long, but you don't want to be out there, so you just run into the building, bro.
I had asked my father one time when we were talking about kneeling during the flag. He was like, "I'll never kneel during the flag." He's like, "Because it means something to me." And Ken, you said the same thing. It means something different to me. He's like, "It's a
Yeah.
service I've done." He goes, "But I will tell you this." He's like, I remember picking you up and running into a building so that we wouldn't have to be stuck outside.
And it's literally 35 seconds. It can't even be that long, bro. It got to be like a half minute. And you do, Mike, you just sit there, you just salute the flag while they take the flag down, and then it's done. And then you walk. Nope, bro, we flashing.
Yeah.
Yo, you see a lightning bolt come behind the soldier, bro, running into the building.
You hear the reverse flash talking to you. You can do it, Barry.
Yeah.
Run, Barry.
Earboy Thorn, like, hey, man, run, bro, run.
Number 3,
man.
unique experience growing up on military bases. This one, not to sound misogynist, but in my era, it was mostly women. This is something called a dependa. A dependa is your girlfriend or wife, could be your husband too, who's a dependent and they're not an active military person. And one of the things from dependas or dependos, which is the male counterpart, is some people who are the dependent husband or wife think they have the rank of their husband or wife. And I have been in what's called the PX, which is where you go shopping in the military.
Yeah.
It's like your little more. I have watched like the wives of captains chew people out because they're like, my husband is a captain. You will address me with the greeting of the day and stuff. And dudes are looking at him shocked, like, hey, lady, I don't know who you are. Like,
Yeah.
and the old Filipino lady at the PX who's bagging up everything is looking at him like, I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Now we had that. Actually, I think a major his wife got in trouble because she was running around like, I'm Major so. So now, if your husband is the 5-star general,
Yeah.
that's different. But
Yeah.
if your husband just the captain of 521st
Yeah.
Signal Brigade,
Yeah.
you don't sit your ass down somewhere, lady.
Your husband's the senior lance corporal. You know? It don't rate. You know?
If he ain't a general, man, nobody cares. Nobody cares.
My 4th greatest experience growing up on military bases that's unique is, let's say my dad picked me up. He's like, "Hey, let's go out, let's go fishing," or something like that. The things you do as a military child growing up on bases are different. Where we went fishing, I always remember North Carolina, LZ Bluebird. It's a landing zone for helicopters, but because there's when you know there's not going to be a lot of choppers around, there's good fishing over there because nobody could go back there. So we would go fishing at LZ Bluebird. We would go shooting at pistol ranges that were in the impact area of an artillery range. We would do explorations after the impact area. We would go in the impact area of an artillery range when no artillery was coming down just to look at all the destruction. And this is like, this is like my dad's bonding with me. We're like looking at deers that just died of shock. They're just laying there blown up. And he's like, isn't it amazing? But also,
and you're like, man, I just want to play Nintendo.
Yeah, I'm like, can we just go, man? I mean,
but somebody drops something on us right now.
Yeah, But one of the best parts about riding around the base like that was when your father, because at the time when I was about 10 years old, my father was a gunnery sergeant. So at that time, we would catch people breaking rules running around, and I would watch my dad smoke these people, and it would be like embarrassing because here I am like a chubby little kid with an ice cream cone, and I catch my father seeing somebody wearing an earring because these dudes, Mike, they would wear earrings on the weekend. I don't know why they just would not wear an earring, but they would put it in on the weekend, and then during the week they would try to put a band-aid on their ears so nobody would see the hole. And I have watched my father pop out of a moving car because he saw somebody with an earring, and I've watched dudes try to run like it was gonna help them. Like they were gonna be like, I ain't even Gunny, I didn't even know you were running after me. I just started running. Like
I heard Reveille and I had to
I had
go.
Reveille and I was gone, bro.
My father caught a guy not wearing a seatbelt one time, Mike, and he made a seatbelt out of duct tape for this dude to wear. And this dude's in regular clothes, and they have these duct tape seatbelts that they would wear around the base for guys who were riding around without seatbelts. And here I got to come in there, visit my dad, and see these men who are like 19 years old wearing this seatbelt made of duct tape and try not to laugh. But they just look like idiots, and they're just looking at me like, I hate your dad. That means I hate you, kid. You know?
Yep.
And then my number one experience growing up on military bases, the son of a Marine, was when I would be pawned off to be babysitted by like junior NCOs, and I didn't catch what was going on. But Ken, at least 7 times in my life, and my older sister Melinda will verify this, we were dropped off at the barracks, but to be
Wow,
watched by like a lance corporal, and my
bro.
dad would just be like, "Me and your mom are going out. Lance Corporal Stevenson's gonna watch you." He get a knock on the barracks door, be like, "Hey, Gunny, what's up?" Be like, "You gotta take care of my kids for the night." And they're like, don't. I remember, honestly, I wish I called Melinda up right now. Ken, I remember this. They had cups where when you'd fill them up, the girls would get naked. And like, we're all sitting around drinking soda out of these cups. And he's like, I'm gonna make us some SpaghettiOs. He's like, on your life, you cannot tell your father I have a hot plate. And I was like,
Yeah, the hot, bro. Don't talk about the hot plate, bro. Don't talk about the hot plate,
I
man.
tell my dad later on, he's like, "What'd you guys do?" I was like, "Oh, we drank sodas and I learned how to play Indian poker, and then he made us SpaghettiOs." And my dad's like, "How did he make you SpaghettiOs?" I'm like, He's like, "This MF got a hot plate."
Yo, the babysitting thing is funny because a friend of mine, he was actually my wedding, and I was the best man in his wedding, but he had a kid when we were in the military. So when we would go to the club, my ex-wife, she would watch his son, Deshaun, who's like a star college basketball player now. So Kissy is in the room, in my room, watching Deshaun. And dude, this guy was cheating on this girl. So what happened was he stayed in the room across from me. She came and he had music playing, like R&B music.
Yeah.
So she thought they was in there. We were at the club. This girl took the fire extinguisher, stuck it under his door, and let the whole thing out. So we get back, Kissy outside with a baby. The fire department's there. The whole barracks, bro. I don't know how all this. It's everywhere. And then they was like, "Why is there a baby in it?" They wouldn't even care about the fire. So they said, "Why is there a baby here? Who's hard rid of?" So we got in trouble for that, and so we couldn't babysit Deshaun no more. They was like, "He can come over here to visit, but he can't stay the night." We was like, "He was just here for a few hours." They was like, "No babies in the barracks, yo."
Hey guys, that's my top 5 memorable experiences growing up in the Marine Corps base. And thank you, Ken, for chiming in. You got some dope experiences. When we come back, it's a special holiday today as well. It is National Sesame Street Day, which is something that's very fond to me. We're going to talk about that when we come back to Real Laughs on Real Radio 104.1. Welcome back to Real Laughs on Real Radio 104.1. I am your host, Miguel Colon Jr., joined in virtual studio with Mr. Ken Miller and Mr. Mike Hurley. We were just talking about a special holiday today, which is November 10th. It is the 45th birthday of the United States Marine Corps. And that's very special to me growing up a dependent and living on Marine Corps bases. But it's also Sesame Street Day. And growing up, I was a big fan of Sesame Street when I was a little kid. Like, I loved watching Sesame Street. I dug their songs, their vibe. It was Electric Company and Sesame Street for me all day long. I wasn't a Mr. Rogers kid. I was kind of the vibe creeped me out. Now that I'm older, I got a lot of respect for Mr. Rogers. But when I was a kid, the vibe creeped me out. It was just like low budget puppets and weird sweaters. It's just
He talked all slow.
yeah. I just was like, look, man, I don't know for a fact, but he gave me that Chester vibe. Now I know he wasn't. Good to know. But at the time, if Mr. Rogers would have rolled up like, "Do you need a ride?" and it was like storming and hail was hitting me, I'd be like, "I'll walk. I'll walk, dog." Yeah. But I was a huge Sesame Street fan. There was a place in Pennsylvania we used to go to called Sesame Place, and it was a Sesame Street theme park. And I don't remember much about it because I went when I was a kid, but I remember it was pretty like low budget. Like, you know how in Disney World you don't see the Mickey Mouse out of his costume. In Sesame Place, you definitely see like Grover and the Count with their heads off, smoking a square, just passing it back to each other, talking about how they was trying to get that Busch Gardens money and something like that. But some cool notes about Sesame Street. Did your kids watch Sesame Street, guys, at all growing up? Was it something you watched?
Nah, my kids were Barney.
Barney, yeah.
Barney was big when my kids were young.
Yeah, my kids not so much. Like they know who Elmo is and stuff like that. But I was a huge Sesame Street, Electric Company, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood growing up. I mean, that was it. That was
who
the
would have guessed
trifecta, man.
Out of Mr. Rogers and Elmo would have turned out to be the one to not leave your kid with.
Yeah,
not my thought.
You know what? Did you guys ever see the documentary on the puppeteer who did Elmo?
No.
Like I felt so bad for that kid, man. Well, he was an adult when everything finally went down, obviously. But this is a guy that reached out to like Jim Henson when he was a kid. I mean, I forget the guy's name that was the puppeteer for Elmo. But the whole documentary is all he ever wanted to do was puppets. He reached out to Jim Henson. He did an internship. He was on the Dark Crystal movie. That was his first major puppet gig. And from then he came up with the voice of Elmo. He traveled the world teaching, because Sesame Street is worldwide. So he went around the world to the other studios, teaching them the looks and the feel of Elmo and everything else. It's crazy, man. Then when that happened,
Kevin Clash was Elmo?
Yeah, that was it.
He did Master Splinter also in the Ninja Turtles.
Did he really?
Yeah, I know Kevin Clash because he's like the only puppeteer I'd ever heard of growing up. Yeah, he was in Labyrinth. He was on the show Dinosaurs. He was Master Splinter, the puppeteer for Master Splinter. Man.
Okay, so I don't know. What's the Elmo story?
Oh, you don't know?
No.
Yeah, the Kevin Clash, I guess it was, ended up before the whole cancel culture Me Too. He had some inappropriate things with, was it children, Miguel?
Let's make sure, because I don't want to throw that on him.
It was definitely some sexual stuff going on.
Yeah, he admitted to a sexual relationship with when a kid was 16. So that's a kid, bro. I understand there's what we call the Britney Spears rule, but it doesn't apply. That was a kid. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. And so man, Kevin Clash was like that was the only puppeteer I'd ever known of, just because he was the puppeteer. You know, that's why they made like horrible jokes that I thought were funny about Tickle Me Elmo.
I saw the documentary before it all broke out about what happened with him and the kid, and it's just like, man, the documentary is great. I mean, you see him; he grew up in bad area. He was doing puppets. Birthday parties for kids in his neighborhood with puppets he made when he was a kid. To see someone go from I want to be a puppeteer, I think when he met with one of the because he met with someone who designed for puppets for Sesame Street, not Jim Henson, but someone else, and he had a school field trip going to New York City. And he reached out by letter to this guy. You got to remember, this is all before emails and everything else. He's like, hey, my class is coming to New York. Can I come by your studio for a day? And that was the day he got to go and really be like, oh, man, this is amazing. To see someone who this is your dream and all the steps he took to get there and how gone in a second, man.
Ken, can you imagine?
Well, technically, he's back, but his allegations were all dismissed.
Well, thank God. I hope that means it wasn't
I'm on
true.
Wikipedia. It says in 2013, 3 cases against Clash were dismissed because the claims were made more than 6 years after each man reasonably should have become aware of Clash's of his allegations. So 3 years after they turned 18,
technicality.
So they would drop. But he's back to working now. He was inactive for 6 years. He stopped in 2012, according to Wikipedia. And then in 2018, he started back up again, and he was recently on Happy Time Murders. What used to call it, the Dark Crystal, Age of
the new
Resistance,
Dark Crystal show.
and something called Earth to Ned.
And it looks like Sesame Street 50 years and counting video 2019. I don't know. They were really quiet about his return though. How come that's what that is though? When you get busted with something, it makes front page news. But when they're like, "Oh, let's forgive him, but let's keep it really quiet."
Because they're like, "Yo, Kev, you want this job, or you want the world to clap? Oh, Kevin beat rape charges on technicality. That's how we're hiring you because it was too long." They're like, "Show me on the puppet where he touched you." Elmo won't do it. Elmo won't testify.
I'm seeing his Sesame Street credits, and if you go on his IMDb and you look at his Sesame Street credits, the guy has like 300 characters, dude.
Yeah. Dude, yes. That was a rough year everybody, bro.
They were like, "Kevin, we're gonna have to ask you to leave." Also, Sesame Street's going down to 4 Puerto Ricans and 1 dog puppet because we don't got anybody anymore.
Mm-hmm. You think everybody, bro?
You think this too, man? How hard it must be to be a black kid from the street and say, "I want to do puppets." Like Kevin Clash had to fight every day. Every day of his life. Ken, just imagine you're back in the projects, and there's a dude who's like, basketball, rap, college. Nah, y'all all stupid. It's puppets.
Yeah, it's puppets, bro.
Let's talk about Sesame Street for a second, though. Yeah. One of the first deaths that affected me was when Mr. Hooper died. And they didn't. He was the grocery shop owner.
Yeah,
and they didn't even try to sugarcoat. They didn't get another old dude and be like, "Oh, Mr. Hooper retired. I'm his brother Earl. I'll be taking." Yeah. They're like, "He dead." Yeah,
he dead. And it was New York Sesame Street too. They're like, "Why Mr. Hooper die?" Like, well, you know, sometimes Mr. Hooper wouldn't kick up that number money that he owed. And Gino Carlatello told him, "You know, it's not going to stop for 2 Korean kids and a pistol to walk in here if you're not protected anymore."
But let's talk about it's also a show of unity and love. And you got Maria and you got Gordon. And they're always coming on the stoop. But when you got a homeless guy living in a trash can, you just leave him out there. Oscar's just out there every day. No one's good. And you got Snuffleupagus and Big Bird's the only one that can see him. There's some messed up stuff.
I think the problem with Oscar, here's what it was. And Oscar the Grouch helped me understand a lot. They're like, listen, some people just can't help themselves. So you can't give Oscar money because he's just going to go buy dope. He lives in the neighborhood, so you show him a little respect. But at the end of the day, you can hang out by the trash can, listen to him tell Vietnam stories, but then you got to be home by the lights come on. Yeah. Because you know Oscar's listen. Oscar's got PTSD. Anybody who's living in a garbage can in the nicest neighborhood, Oscar's like sitting there and he's like, "I'm going to tell you what, kids, when we took Hill 3872, woo, that day, that was the worst day and best day of my life. There was little yellow rice hats laying everywhere."
I hate to say it, I didn't grow up watching Sesame Street. I may have seen a few episodes. I just wasn't.
How'd you learn to count?
Yeah,
my mama beating me with
one ass whipping, two ass whippings.
I mean, I remember episodes, but I didn't like when you said Mr. Hooper. I had to go Google who he was.
Really?
Like I didn't watch it like that.
He was the only white guy in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
I remember. Hey, this
pretty good neighborhood then.
Yeah.
He's like, I came here, realized there was no bodegas, moved in.
Mr. Hooper's like, this was a good neighborhood until these freaky colored things moved in. Not you people. I'm talking about this bird.
I like how your Mr. Hooper and your Bernie Sanders are the same voice.
Right?
Let me tell you something, kids. Sesame Street, everyone goes to school and everyone pays for it.
Okay, here's the thing. How would it feel if only the top 1% who came in got an apple? Huh?
Yeah. Let me sit and talk to you, Elmo, for a minute. Elmo wants a candy bar. That's fine, Elmo. But maybe Elmo didn't work for that candy bar. He still deserves it, you know. I tell you what. One of the coolest things that Sesame Street did. This is a weird, obscure thing, but I remember trying to explain to my homeboy's son what it meant for 2 men to be gay, and in the middle of it, without me saying, he goes. I was explaining that they lived together and that they loved each other, like they were a couple that loved each other, and he goes, "Is it like Bert and Ernie?" And I was like, "Yeah, bro." And he goes, and then he asked me, he's like, yeah. Do they sleep in separate beds? And I was like, no, that's the difference. Okay. And they shower together too. But just like Bert and Ernie, just the way that's cool, I want you to think this is cool, okay?
Yeah, and when you really look back at it, like I get that Bert and Ernie lived in New York and rent's expensive, and you're happy. It's good that you got a loft in such a trendy brownstone area, you know. But
I've never looked at it. I've never looked at it like that.
I've lived with another dude when we could only afford a 1-bedroom apartment. Not once did we say, "Can we get 2 twin beds in here?" It's like, dude, you're on the couch. You're on the couch unless you got a girl over, and you gotta let me know in advance, and then you can pretend this. We'll put up the picture of your mom on the nightstand.
What if Bert and Ernie were just like you came into their apartment at 3:00 in the morning, like, oh my God, Mr. Hooper's dead, and you come in there, they got girls everywhere, they're doing lines. It's like, I thought you guys were gay. Gay? It's $2,600 a month for this place. I'm surprised 4 other guys don't live here. Why do you live in Sesame Street? Why live in Sesame Street? It's 1985 in New York, and you can't find crack anywhere in this neighborhood. This is the best damn neighborhood in the city.
Dude, my favorite was always the Cookie Monster. I loved the Cookie Monster. And there was a short time in the early 2000s when kids were getting really, really obese. And of all things, they blamed Cookie Monster for him depicting how he just gobbled down cookies. So they actually started making Cookie Monster eat like healthier choices rather than cookies.
Like vegetables and stuff, right?
Like, yeah, I'm like, dude, he's the cookie friggin' he's not the calorie counter, the carrot cruncher. It's like if your kids are getting fat, it's not because they see Cookie Monster doing cookies. Monster, bro. It's you. It's you as a parent.
I don't know why the parents be looking quick. I got Dwayne sent me a YouTube clip. Remember, I just posted a week ago when I did Nick Mom. And apparently Nick Mom, the comedy portion got taken because somebody kid was up at 10 o'clock at night and heard the word orgasm. And so the parents was like, well,
not coming from the parents' room.
Right. Somebody actually said that in the clip because it was a big lady. And somehow I was like, it's 10 o'clock at night. They tell you programming is about to change to adult programming. You're like, why would you have your kid watching TV at 10 o'clock at night anyway, ma'am? Yeah. But this lady was on the news making a big stink. But I'm like you, Mike, like, okay, your kid's fat because Cookie Monster?
Yeah,
like
Cookie Monster
kid's obese because of Cookie Monster.
Chicken Parmesan every day.
Yeah.
I was doing a Comedy Zone gig, and did you guys ever do the Somewhere in Augusta, Georgia?
Yeah, was that Comedy Zone?
Yeah, that was Comedy Zone, man.
Okay, no, I didn't do that one.
So I did Somewhere in Augusta, right outside Augusta National Golf Course. Beautiful area, right?
Yeah, it's Fort Gordon.
So I do it, and it's one of those restaurants that becomes a comedy club.
Yeah,
so
my career.
Yeah, right. So, but they pack out for the comedy shows. They really do. But when I get there, there's a family finishing up dinner, and they're from England, and they have 2 kids, probably 6 and 7, right around there. And the manager says, "Hey, I got a table in the back. They were here eating, but I told them the comedy show started at 8 o'clock. And I told them there's adult content, and they said they're fine with that." And I'm like, "Oh man, well that's fine because I do a clean show, so I'll just do." And he's like, "No." He's like, "I'm telling you, do your regular show. I already warned them." I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "They're probably going to be gone before you get up." And Jody Kearns was the headliner. So yeah, if they were going to fret over anything I said,
Yeah.
So I go up. And I do my act, and I hold back a little, but I drop a couple F-bombs here and there. I do my set. After the show, I'm selling merch, and the table's still there. They stuck around for the whole show. So they came up to me and said, "Hey, just want to let you know, we thought it was pretty bad that you said those types of things when there were children in the room." And Jody Kern come back, goes, "Mike's not a bad comic. You're terrible parents." She's like, "Mike doesn't let his kids listen to his act because they are children. You knew what was going on, and you kept your children here. There is bad people in this room, but it's not Mike." And I was
that's the heads down answer, guys. Hey guys, that's our show for this evening. Is anybody going to be anywhere they want to promote this weekend, Mike?
Yeah, I'm actually going to be out in Leesburg, Florida. I'm going to be at the Leesburg Center for the Arts with Kermit Gonzalez and Kevin White. That's Taylor Boyd's room. I haven't done it yet. I think Dean Napolitano was there last month or so. And
I've done that one
I did it last year.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Beautiful place, man.
So I'm going to be out there this Friday night, I believe. Friday night. It's 8 o'clock show. Doors open at 7. Yeah, Friday, November 13th. So you can go ahead and check out the website there, orlandocomedy.com. Get your tickets.
How about you, Ken? Anything going on you want to promote?
No, but it's November 10th, so I want to say happy birthday to my pops up in heaven, man. You probably up
happy
there
birthday, Pop.
You probably up there PTSD and choking Jesus to death right now, bro.
Smoking Jesus for having the wrong socks on with his robe, you know?
So I'm chilling this weekend, bro.
That's what's up, man. Well, thank you guys for listening to the show. Happy birthday to the United States Marine Corps, and thank you for Mr. Charlie McAdoo for being a badass and having a badass son like Ken Miller. You guys listen to Real Laughs on Real Radio 104.1. Peace.